question.
Yeah. For meditation and contemplation,
Mm-hmm.
you tweeted about this, how meditation can be not a good thing if you're just doing it too much or become a donkey. But I find, at least for me, it's very difficult to quiet the mind.
Well, it's exactly for quieting the mind. I mean, if you just did it for, I mean, that's good. By the way, most people don't meditate nearly enough. And what I worry about is they're going to take this and say, oh, well, I never wanted to meditate anyway, or I'm no good at meditation, or, oh, I've got ADHD, so I can't meditate. But see, you have to calm your mind. If you calm your mind, your ADHD goes away. And so that's a very good use, an appropriate use of meditation. In preparation, for example, for contemplation.
Right. And so what, it seems that the more quiet your mind is, the more fruitful the contemplation will be.
Yes, exactly. But let me say one more thing about the purposes of meditation. The purpose of meditation initially is to create some space between what people imagine is themselves, you, and your mind, right? And so meditation, that's very useful because people identify with their minds. They think that they are their minds. And that's a real problem. So basic meditation needs to create some space between the hypothesized you and the thoughts or the sensations or the perceptions, etc. So now what were you were saying that, oh yeah, it creates clarity of mind so you can think straight. Yeah, absolutely. Right. People aren't thinking very straight these days.
No.
And we know why.
And so I guess my question is, at what point is it too much? What is the point you're referring to that's meditating too much? Because that's not clear to me.
For whom?
I guess in this case for me, is there a point? Because
okay, let me give my experience. My experience was I would meditate for hours a day, every day. 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. And I did that for a while, and it was very, very useful. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with meditation. What I'm saying, and the concerns with meditation come when people get in these very intensive Zen groups, or and for these people it may be an escape, and that's fine, but that's not what it's designed for. But some people are afraid to be in the world, and so they go to these retreats and they stay in that state and they sequester in their apartments and they just bliss out on meditation, and that's all they do. And that's fine for some people, but in this project, in this endeavor, there's a much more than that, right? Mm-hmm. And so meditation is a means by which to settle the mind, bring yourself to the present, and then look and see, right? On the out breath, you see what's in front of you. Objects, phenomena, movement. On the in breath, you turn the light around, and now you're in this vast, sweet spaciousness that just there, right? And so all day you can just breathe in and out, and go from stopping to seeing, stopping, seeing. It's a very delightful practice. It's easy, and once you get into the habit of it, it's a great habit. Because that helps one stay centered, right?
Right.
And that's what happens. People lose the center in the Taoist terminology. And so, in that case, I think meditating 24/7, you meditate in your sleep. This is not uncommon. If you look at, for example, some of the Hindu records, this is one of the most popular ways of doing it, was attending to the breath.
So when you say meditate in your sleep, just that same practice, but in your sleep? When you're
I mean, I meditate when you're falling asleep.
right.
If you dream and you can wake up in your dream, which I highly recommend, you can do it there too. But the idea is you get saturated to the bone, to the marrow, with Dharma, with the work, and so this is your life now.
Yeah.
And I'm the older I get, the more I realize that's probably what it takes if you're really going to go for the waking up part. So, yeah, it takes all you got.
And what does it mean to wake up?
To find your true self, but more than that, to find your home, to know that you're safe, to know that death can't touch you, and to know that what's really out there is beauty beyond description and love beyond words. And finally you understand why truth is sometimes used with a capital T. It's like being born. It's like starting life. It's before waking up, you're living the life of one of Plato's shadows in a cave. I mean, it's not even really, you can't really even call it life, in my opinion, right? And not just me.
Why not?
Because it's so dull and it's so small and it's so petty and often ridiculous, and it's so limited, and it's just so full of fear and weird stuff that you don't need when you know what reality is. And then furthermore, it becomes much easier to do whatever it is you're doing, because you're not running into any resistance. If you're according with the way accords with you, right? That's the whole point. It's like not my will but yours, in the Christian formulation. And so it not only do you have a new world of unspeakable beauty, the world works with you for whatever you want. And so it's not by accident that the Christians call it being born again, or that Jesus calls it the peace that passeth understanding, or that the Buddhists call it big mind or Buddha, right? Or and they go on and on. You can't. The words are never going to get close to it. And so, does that answer your question? Kind of. I mean, there's infinitely more I could say, but this is the beginning. This is what comes to mind at the moment, speaking to you right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
follow up, yeah.
Are there degrees to waking up, or is it
No.
1 or 0?
It's now, one can get very, very far by years of devoted and gradual increments in understanding. Right?
What does that mean to get very far?
I don't know. That's not a path I took. But there was a debate in China in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th centuries, and then in Japan about because the Zen people are all about sudden awakening. Not just the Zen people, other people as well. But if you look at the Tibetan traditions, they don't focus on it that much. And if you look at, to be fair, oftentimes the Zen people fall off to, and also the Zen people are ignoring their own tradition, which is very much involved with being in the world, but not of the world.
Right.
But there's other traditions where they quietude and isolation and not having anything to do with the world, not working particularly for the world or even working in the world, is more characteristic of, say, some more ancient Hindu approaches. And that's fine. People can do as they please, obviously. But in this way, the goal would be to be in the world but not of it. Which I think, is that Jesus? Oh, my kingdom is not of this world.
Sufis as well.
Okay, all right. So these are these traditions and these aspirations have not lasted for 3,000 years by accident, and the findings are always the same. It's extraordinary. And so, and there's so much ignorance of even what the real thing is about, and the marketing elements of this have gotten completely out of control. And now there's apps for waking up. You just like pay your $250 and turn on your app and you'll wake up.
Right.
So I mean, it is not to belittle anybody or whatever. They can do as they please, but in this way, the aspirations are high, in one sense. But once you, it's great. One of my favorite words for sudden awakening, right? Which is called enlightenment in Zen, and in America these days they call that enlightenment, which it's the beginning. Enlightenment actually takes
Right.
quite a while after that. So.
But there's sudden enlightenment that alludes to there being gradual enlightenment.
Right. Exactly. Good point. So, but my favorite description of the sudden enlightenment is called finding the nose on your face, which is really what it's like. I mean, you go, duh, it's like so obvious, but our egos and our conceptual minds are so heavy and thick that it's hard to break through them. With regard to gradual enlightenment, I think I don't know where I've met some very evolved people who had nothing to do with this sudden enlightenment stuff, but they were usually Christian. But that has to do more with my the culture I'm most closely grew up with. The saying goes like, whether you walk through a mist or find yourself in a downpour, in both cases you get just as wet. I like that, because that makes sense. At least the metaphor makes sense. And with one more thing about the I think part of the just like I heard somebody refer to it as an explosion. I wouldn't call it an explosion. I'd call it something else. But it's a pressure drop, right? And so Satoris occur routinely after waking up, and well, not routinely, but they occur frequently, basically whenever you want. But what it represents is a drop in pressure. That's the only metaphor I have. But basically, you're running around in a crusty old, rusty, outdated, ego like this, right? And then freedom. And that's what the flower ornament, I think, is. They come the closest in my knowledge. So if you're a highly evolved person, then maybe it's not as a big of a drop. Do you see what I'm saying? And so they just gradually disassemble the whole thing and let it all fall away. So follow up? I'm sorry, I interrupted you too. Where were you going?
I forget.
Okay. But follow-ups to that, or more questions about that?